Imagine scaling your advisory practice, reducing your workload, and deepening client relationships, all without hiring another team member. It's not a fantasy, it's what today's top advisors are doing with AI. My guest today, Duncan MacPherson, laid out a blueprint, not a theory, on how to do this. His 17 actionable AI strategies are strategies that you can implement immediately. And in this episode, we're going to go deep on it.
This is the Resilient Advisor Show with Jay Coulter.
Welcome to the Resilient Advisor Show, the podcast solving the advisor's dilemma. How to simplify your business, streamline investments, and build a profitable practice that's built to last. I'm excited to welcome Duncan MacPherson back onto the podcast. Duncan is the CEO of Pareto Systems and the co-author of several best-selling books for financial advisors, including The Advisor Playbook and one of my favorites, The Blue Square Method. He is one of the most respected voices in practice management and advisor marketing. And he and his team are back with a cutting-edge white paper that we want to share with you titled AI for the Financial Professional, 17 Best Practices and Use Cases to Improve Efficiency and Productivity. You can download this white paper by heading over to Pareto Systems, or if you're watching live, go into the show notes or comment section and you can hyperlink to there. Duncan, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back 10 years or so later.
It's crazy, isn't it? In fact, for folks who are watching this on video, I'm pulling up onto the screen an image from the first podcast that Duncan and I did almost 10 years ago. I have my old, awful Resilient Advisor logo. Duncan, you look so professional and buttoned up, and we were talking about how to build a franchise-ready business. I actually went back and listened to that episode. It still applies today, 10 years later. It was a great framework for advisors, and we'll have links to that in the show notes. The most interesting part is that that podcast, we recorded on the telephone. I literally called you with an audio recorder, and we went back and forth. Technology has changed, hadn't it?
I mean, pretty pure, pretty authentic, and you're right, it does hold up today.
Yeah. Yep. What's interesting about this show is not only can viewers watch it live as we're recording it, ask us questions inside of the comment section if you would like to ask Duncan a direct question, but this will be repurposed on not only LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, but it'll be on Instagram. And Duncan, do you have any exposure on TikTok?
I do not. I should probably explore it, though.
Well, after this show, we'll have you on TikTok. It's something we've been playing with, and surprisingly, a lot of advisors are on TikTok, and that's because technology is changing, as it always does, rapidly. And that brings us to what we want to talk about today, and that is AI and how advisors can leverage it. Let's get started talking about this white paper with what inspired you and your team to create this white paper.
Well, the word game changers gets thrown around a lot. This is legitimate. And to your earlier point, the white paper is trying to get through the signal to noise ratio and focus on what's real, because there's so much esoteric and theoretical and interesting applications regarding AI, but it's hard to deploy them, whether it's compliance or just complexity. So what we did was focus on actual use cases, actual issues that could be addressed, problems that could be solved using AI. And that's where the 17 came from. They are bona fide. They're not theoretical, and they have an impact.
Yeah, Duncan, I have found in conversations with advisors, if they're not up to speed on AI, they generally just think it is something like recording a Zoom conversation and using that tool with their client interactions and maybe putting it in their CRM. As you've demonstrated in this paper, it's so much more than that. You say early on in the paper that AI adoption is no longer optional. Why is that the case for advisors today, and especially in this context of being a fiduciary?
Well, that's just it. I mean, there's actually three primary drivers. As a fiduciary, just the business opportunity, the investment opportunity. We all know who the big players are, the blue chip firms, whether it's hardware or in the actual day-to-day usage. But there are now well over 70,000 companies involved in the AI space. And obviously there'll be consolidation, just as, .com and all that went through its motions. But we have to be a serious student just from a fiduciary perspective to just be, selective and have discernment when we're talking to clients about what the opportunity is. Professionally, it comes down to time and consistency. Every financial advisor is 24 hours in the day. Some get through the day, others get from the day. And when it comes to time, I use the analogy, Jay, it's like you're either putting sand in a shopping cart, transacting, it's not leading anywhere, it's not building anything, or you're putting sand in the hourglass and you're giving yourself the gift of time and efficiency. It is unbelievable how that will compound very quickly for somebody. So fiduciary, professionally, and then personally, it is fascinating how it will impact our life. So that's what we address in the white paper. And let's explore that further.
Sand in a shopping cart. I love that analogy. In the paper, you mentioned that advisors should be able to explain AI's impact in a way clients can understand. What do you mean by that? How should advisors talk about AI without sounding too wonky or sophisticated?
Okay, so there's what you say, and then there's how you conduct yourself. The ongoing goal for a financial professional is keep striving for ways to achieve professional contrast, where you're constantly elevating yourself to differentiate yourself from the pack so you're not swimming in a pool of sameness. Your client experience, your way, all the things that contribute to what it means to be your client can be supplemented with AI. So even if it's not anything you talk about, just the way you roll, the way you conduct yourself using AI will be profound. But I just want you to demonstrate to your clients that you're innovative. The clay is soft and you are a serious student. So you're studying it. And Jay, you might have noticed in the white paper, and I talk about this all the time, I personally subscribe on X as well as on an email stream to a distribution called The Rundown. So I get a daily drop of what's going on in the world of AI. And it's fascinating because it's speaking to the industry. I mean, it's doing job postings. It's talking about stealth drops and things that came out of nowhere. But incrementally, you're just keeping yourself close to the fire, your finger on the pulse, so to speak, in the world of AI. And that builds out over time. So just be a serious student. Take it seriously.
Who produces that email?
That's a very good question. I know they have an amazing reach, but I don't think I've ever looked into that. But if you just go do a search, The Rundown, or you go into Twitter X, you'll find them very, very quickly. And every day, it's varying degrees of things that are very meaningful in the AI space.
Excellent. I will track that down. It'll be in the show notes for this, The Rundown. Any other resources that you use when it comes to AI to stay on top of things, or does that list cover?
Well, I mean, AI for me is replacing Google search. I mean, if somebody tells me about a book they think I should read, the first thing I do is I go to AI and ask for a summary. I say, just give me a one-page summary of this book.
Mm-hmm.
And I get all the salient points in seconds. It was assembled for me. It wasn't like something that was found in the cloud. And then I can decide if I want to go further. I will tell you, I had recently I got a phone call regarding a family member, and nobody likes that phone call. I mean, it was about something not great. And so I had to, travel quite far to go visit some family members. And I dealt with the logistical. And then as I got on the plane, I started to shift to the emotional. Like, how do I emotionally deal with this? And I was tired. I was overwhelmed. You know what I did, Jay? I went onto AI and I said, help me prepare to sit down with somebody who's dying. And you know what the first thing AI said to me? I'm sorry you're going through this. So there was a little bit of an empathic component, but then it just laid out for me do's and don'ts. Consider this. Don't do that. It put me in the red zone in 5 minutes. It just enabled me to galvanize my thoughts and just get myself prepared to be present and have a meaningful impact on somebody who's going through something that's awful. That was profound for me. So I could bore you to tears with examples, but that one was just recent, and it was meaningful.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing boring about that example. What a fantastic tool in a difficult time. Obviously, there's applications for financial advisors. I tell you, I use Chat, GPT, and Grok, and I like the functionality where I can talk to it. And sometimes when I'm at the gym, I start talking to it and I sound like a crazy person walking around talking to AI. What other tools do you use outside of maybe a Chat or a Grok?
Well, there are several. There are supplements to CRM, of course. There's supplements to, people are buying into the whole Read AI and supplements to Zoom meetings and things like that. I will tell you something. First of all, AI is designed to liberate you to go deeper into what is becoming the most significant unmet need in this space. And that is relationship management. The one thing AI will not fully have is EI, emotional intelligence. As things become more and more commoditized, what we ask our clients to do is to focus on the things that are proprietary, the things that will make you fee worthy, the things that will make you referable, the things that will enable you to scale up. And Jay, I would say that Grok and Chat can address in excess of 90% of those issues. I'll just give you an example. I was talking to an advisor who's trying to scale up, and he's dealing with some HR issues. And I said to him, I don't think you're fully prepared. Yeah, like you're doing a great job getting people to your office and getting people to meet with you to talk about opportunities to join your firm. But I don't think you're really prepared for the meetings themselves. So I said, ask Chat to give you some great questions to ask in a meeting with a prospective employee. Phenomenal. Like questions like, tell me about some of the biggest problems you overcame and what it revealed in you. Like just outside the sort of norm, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, that's all fine, but just going a little bit deeper. I said to an advisor who's scaling up, I said, you need to professionalize your business, get everything out of your head. You've got so much in your head, so much in your team members' heads. If it's in their heads, it's a skill. If it's documented, organized, professionalized, standardized, now it's intellectual property. So I said, just as a starting point, I said, you're an advisor, you've got a team of 7. Ask AI to create you an org chart. Describe your team, ask for an org chart of roles and responsibilities. You'll have it in 3 seconds. Then ask it for a framework for a procedures manual and playbook so you can start to organize your client experience in an intellectual property. The incrementalism, the profound force that this develops using AI, it just gives everybody the gift of time, efficiency, and the outcomes are incredible. So long-winded answer, but there you go.
So Duncan, one of the things that I do in my private coaching practice is I create little chat rooms inside of ChatGPT for each client. And the way it's able to remember little nuances from problems we solved in the past and then go and apply it to new problems that come up is incredible. And the applications then at the advisor level, working with their clients, has to really get us to a place to where advisors that are using AI are going to run laps around the advisors who are not. How do you explain that to an advisor that's resistant to using AI in their practice?
Well, I do love that dynamic where every time you invest effort into AI, back to the shopping cart and hourglass, it is learning you. It is learning about your styles. It's not transactional. You're not pumping up this leaky tire, just getting one bit of information that addresses that issue. There is a progression that's coming out of it. So that's a genius addition to your approach. But the thing is, just try it, get used to using it. Like another example, and this one was very powerful for me. Financial advisor called me up. He's growing. It's interesting, Jay. He's growing up market, but simultaneously growing down. He's growing down the number of relationships he manages to grow up market to deal with more complex, very attractive clients. And as he's going through this exercise, he's noticing the quality of introductions improving. Okay, so he calls me up and he says, look, I got introduced to the most significant prospective client I'll ever meet to this point in my career. Now, of course, his original approach, he'd go on to LinkedIn, he'd do a Google search just to get to know, just try to see the world through his lens, just understand the prospective client. I said, go on to chat. I said, look at it through the lens of the prospective client who's coming to meet you. So the prompt he gave chat was, I am an affluent investor. I've just had a liquidity event. I've sold my HVAC business for $65 million. I've been introduced to a financial advisor I'm about to meet for the first time. What questions should I ask to see if there's a good fit? 5 seconds. The response to that prompt populated probably 80% of his agenda. Now, many issues are 2 or 3 questions deep, so he kept digging a little bit to draw more out. But his level of preparation, to create an alignment of interest, to understand what it is someone wants and what they're looking for, and how it aligns with the value that's being provided, it's absolutely profound.
Duncan, I'd love for you to comment on a comment made by Sean DeFry on LinkedIn. He says, all advisors I work with adopt AI as a complementary tool, not a replacement. Unfortunately, there's a lot of noise around replacing. It's an enabler, not a threat. What are your comments, Duncan?
I agree. I mean, remember, Jay, 10 years ago, Robo, right? There's 3 types of advisors right now. There's advisors who are coasting, there's advisors who are cresting, and advisors who are climbing. Okay, so those who are coasting, minimal adaptation, just sort of inertia confidence, just rolling. Now, obviously, a little market volatility, a little bit of disruption. The problem with that group is they're on a collision course with obsolescence. They will be replaced. Okay? But there's nobody in that group listening in here. Then you have cresting. These are the advisors who are still growing, but they haven't gotten out in front of their capacity issues. And therefore, they're on a collision course with a plateau. They're just going to max out. And then there's climbing. Climbing, they keep innovating, refining, and optimizing what they do. They scale up. Plateau avoidance has been achieved. But here's the thing, I completely agree. AI is designed not to replace a financial advisor, especially in those 2 groups, but to liberate them to focus on what's theirs. Focus on the things that someone can only get from you that are proprietary to you. More and more advisors are outsourcing, automating, or allocating different elements of the business that are commoditized so they can go deeper into what's proprietary. And that, by the way, Jay, is manifesting into enterprise value, because every investment of effort you make working on your business contributes to the value of your life's work. So there's a forced savings element to that approach. But net, I agree. It is not going to replace. It is designed to supplement, to liberate somebody to deal with more complex clients, to address and identify unmet needs, get out in front of evolving needs to become indispensable.
Sean, thank you for your comment. Viewers, if you'd like to ask a question, just type it into the comment section and I will pose it to Duncan. Let's go back to the white paper, which, as a reminder, you can download by visiting paretosystems.com In there, you talk about a framework for AI prompting. I believe it was Roll, Goal, Soul. Can you walk us through that and what advisors could hope to get out of that prompt?
Yeah, and I'll just echo the fact that you can get this white paper. I co-wrote this with Chris Jepson, and a crew contributed to that output. There is a prompt sheet. Good information in will get you great responses back. So tell AI who you are and who the addressable audience is. Okay, so the role. I'm a financial professional, and I want to start to narrowcast and work more closely with business owners approaching a liquidity event. Okay, that's just an example of a role. Goal, okay, just what is the goal? What am I trying to accomplish? And then soul is to humanize, to get a human response. So that's just the mindset, the framework we ask advisors to apply when they're prompting AI, and it does tend to get a better response.
Makes sense. And for those new to prompting, it's really important that you put that on the front end. You let AI know what you're looking for, not just a straight question, right, Duncan?
It's getting so good, though. I mean, I'm starting to cheat a little bit and just ask some very basic questions, and the responses are incredible, especially when I go back into history and ask for, like, for example, the Titanic, getting information on the Titanic. I got some information from AI that I did not know, and that's very timely right now. But it's incredible. It's getting very, very good.
So I had a little bit of a chuckle reading the white paper when you started talking about how you could use AI to create intellectual property. And the reason is, Duncan, you've been teaching advisors to create intellectual property for at least 10 years because we talked about that on our last podcast back then and the importance of it. Tell me, how and why should advisors use AI to create that intellectual property?
Well, a financial advisor manages three things. They manage money, they manage a business, and they manage people. They're all important. I ask advisors to apply the same level of importance to the second and the third as they do to the first. But how they manage money, it's important. It's absolutely essential, but it's a minimum requirement, and it's not proprietary. Their business and their clients, those are proprietary. Now, if you're a fee-for-service, knowledge-for-profit professional, you think for a living. So the mindset, Jay, is go from vapor to paper, like get it out of your head and get it documented, digitally, physically, organized, standardized. Like, here's an example, the FIT process. Okay, so financial advisor gets a phone call from a great advocate saying, hey, you got to talk to my friend. She's going through some issues right now. She wants to meet with you. The moment you hang up the phone, how many steps are in your process to thank the rainmaker, to connect with the prospective client, to interact with them? It's not a sales encounter. It's a fit process. Your value's bought, not sold. How many steps are in your process? For an average advisor, it's about 12 steps. Well, get that documented. Get that laid out. That's IP. You could put that in the hands of somebody else. That drives the value of your business. And it's not just for prospective clients. You can go back to existing clients as you reframe and rejuvenate long-term relationships and show them this is what a friend of yours can expect from us. They don't need to become a client. We'll see if we're a good fit, but I'll be a sounding board. That's just one example. Then there's the onboarding process. How do you onboard a client and fast track them to advocate status? I mean, there's about 15 steps in the onboarding process. You can go on to ChatGPT right now and say, I'm a financial advisor. I work primarily with successful business owners, professionals, and executives. Build me a fit process so that when I meet prospective clients, they'll feel compelled and drawn to me and want to become my client. Send. There it is. Now get that documented, organized, put that in a binder, digitize that. It's IP. and I'm just scratching the surface here, but this is the progression, and this is, some of what we outline in that white paper.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, I just found it interesting because when we talked about building a franchise-ready business 10 years ago, the mental lift that it would take to document all those steps. I mean, that's the reason it was IP. That's the reason it was valuable. And now you can just get it done, like you say, just like that. There's really no excuse to not do it now, right?
Okay, that is a very good point, because I wish I had a buck for every time 10 years ago. We might have been a bit early 10 years ago, but I wish I had a buck for every time an advisor said to me, man, this sounds like work. And I'm like, well, yeah, it is, but done is better than perfect. Just get it done. Now you're in the red zone. You're literally getting the gift of time. You're 90% down the track in 3 seconds, and then just let the compounding effect of incrementalism build. You could have your entire process and client experience built out in under 90 days using AI.
Right? So I think there's also a downside to that in other parts of your business. So one thing that we've always done at Resilient Advisors, produce an absurd amount of content. And now it seems everybody can produce content. The barriers to entry are so small. And so to create differentiated content becomes a challenge. Duncan, you and I were talking before the broadcast, and I mentioned that I enjoy doing these live streams because AI can't do live streams on social media. How should advisors approach content marketing in this day and age of AI so they're not commoditized?
Okay, it's a really good question, and I'm just making myself some notes to organize my thoughts here. But first of all, and we've talked about this before, brevity, specificity, and proprietary. That's the mindset. So all content should be brief and to the point. You don't talk about talking about things. You leave them wanting more. You respect someone's attention span and how busy they are. So brevity, specificity, you talk in meaningful specifics. 3 things, we'll do 3 things. There's, 7 habits to highly effective people, right? Like there's specificity. So brevity, specificity, and proprietary. This is ours. You can only get this from us. This isn't necessarily content. This is an extension of our process. So that's a very simple framework. But here's the thing, and we're trying to work on this ourselves, but I say this to clients of ours who are financial advisors that are using content marketing in a variety of forms, is I say, emphasize reputational equity. So it's not just the message, there's the messenger. Like, we've all seen how video has become, prolific in the financial services space. Brevity, specificity, proprietary, but also messenger. There's an art and science to getting this reputational equity laid down. It takes time, it takes effort, but that helps create that professional contrast so you're not swimming in an ocean of sameness.
Duncan, I'd love for you to comment on a comment we received on LinkedIn from Ro Morrison. She says, I love the idea of advisors doing a life seminar for clients and prospects, showing clients how AI can support things that matter most: travel, family, health, legacy, all being guided by the real human, the advisor. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's great. And when a financial services team helps their clients demystify not just what AI is, but what it does, they start to make this connection in terms of, how this actually supplements the value they're bringing to their clients. Like obviously based on demography, advisory teams are working closely with clients and the next generation, right? Continuity, succession, family investment legacy, preparing heirs. AI can assist with that. And it becomes this sort of this tether, this keystone that connects the client and the advisor as they're helping navigate that. But, doing seminars, webinars, ideal client events, potentially bringing in a speaker who can help somebody navigate the functionality, it's a great value add that people really find to be of value and helps open people's eyes in terms of where some of the bona fide opportunities are from an investment perspective. So it's just a great initiative. It says to the world, we're not set in our ways. You might have noticed, Jay, I pay homage to a book written by Alvin Toffler called Future Shock. which was written 50 years ago. And if you read that, you can just go into AI and ask for a summary of that book. It's quite compelling. But he talks about something called the new illiterate. And the new illiterate has nothing to do with the ability to read or write. It has everything to do with the ability to adapt and just break free of patterns. And that's exactly what Roe is referring to. It just makes a very powerful statement to the marketplace that you're innovating.
Yeah. Ro, thanks for the question and comment. Duncan, you and I are big proponents of CRM usage inside of an advisory practice. You and I have been beating the table on that our whole career, servicing advisors, sometimes to no avail, but now it's almost mandatory. Tell me, how can advisors use CRM more efficiently, more effectively, and supercharge their practice now that we have these AI tools?
Right. So relationship management, hand in glove with practice management, helps people, when you do that properly, really appreciate your approach to asset management. So every interaction with a client, on the phone, online, in person, must be invested into the rest of the relationship. Too many people transact, which means they have a conversation with a client. It's a meaningful conversation. And what the client tells the advisor or somebody on the team goes to that person's head to die. Okay, just gone. When everything's documented and invested into the CRM, it creates this energy where your clients start to feel and notice that you don't just care about them, you care specifically about what they care about. Now, on the surface, just using the framework form and applying that to user-defined fields on a CRM, think about a 20-minute conversation with a client. You talk about their family, their occupational issues, their recreational interests, and you talk about their money. In a 20-minute conversation, you're probably spending 15 minutes talking about the first 3 and 5 minutes talking about money. They're all important. You think about KYC, they're all important. Know your client panoramically. Now there's functionality with AI like Jump, and there's several of them, where you can add this sidecar onto your CRM to bolster. So when you're talking to a client, or when your associate or protege is talking to a client, everything that the client shares with what, in terms of what's going on in their life, their hopes and dreams, aspirations, setbacks, everything gets put into that CRM. The value of that over time just becomes incredible. You competitor proof, you get out in front of money in motion, and you've earned the right to be referable.
So you mentioned Jump. So that is one of the more popular tools I run across in the community. I've helped a couple of enterprises onboard it. For somebody that is new to AI and new to that type of tool, could you explain at the one-on-one level why they need to look at that in their practice?
Well, you want, okay, let me back up. First of all, true north in this is to move completely away from the mindset of having a book of business. It's a business. And you got to run your business like a business. That's become so important for somebody who thinks for a living. Like, you're not selling things, you're promoting the promise of the future. If you've got 300 clients, especially the 60 who represent 80% of your business, they don't think about your other clients. They think about themselves. And they just want to know that when they hang up the phone or they leave a meeting with you, you've got this. That's what this does. It's one thing to talk about what it is. What does it do? You know, the law of resonance says the value of what you communicate begins at the end of the conversation. Like, I want a client, when they're driving home after meeting with you, or when they've gotten on with their day after an online meeting with you, your impact is still there. It comes from being interested, not interesting. I mean, it's very tempting to try to impress your clients with your knowledge, and your intentions and your qualities and all of that, I much rather you impress upon them. You care, you've got this because you've got a process. You don't wing it. Nothing falls through the cracks. Jay, that's what all of this does. So there's a quantitative element, but there's a qualitative element. Your clients don't need to know everything you know. They just need to know that you know. And that's as much a feeling as it is something they can put their finger on. So again, back to your earlier point, non-optional. And make the investment of effort and study in terms of how you can supplement and up your game.
All right, Duncan, we are over time, but I want to squeeze in 2 more questions because it's great. If I get you on once a decade, I'm going to take advantage of it. So the biggest pushback I get from advisors that are reluctant to leverage AI is they feel it's going to take away the human aspect of their relationship. You alluded to some of this challenge earlier, but how do you address that with an advisor that is just so headstrong that they're not going to move forward with AI?
That's self-fulfilling. I mean, you live by the rules you set. I mean, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I personally don't agree. I mean, if you work 45 hours a week, you spend about 15 hours a week managing money, 15 hours a week managing your business, 15 hours a week managing your clients. Not everything you do as it relates to AI is client facing, meaning that they know you're using AI, but it just liberates you to be present and more deeply engaged. But change is tough. I mean, we often get set in our ways. I think one of the most powerful aspects of pattern recognition is just know that I might be on a collision course with a plateau if I just keep this up. I mean, for a lot of advisors we talk to, Jay, when we do a gap analysis, I tell them that this is not sustainable. It's serving you now, but looking down the road, it's not sustainable. So I just ask you to expand your thinking, be a serious student, invest a bit of time studying it, and then put a foot on the boat. You can keep one on the dock. You don't have to go all in, but just adapt. Just try one thing and just see what happens. And I'm telling you, this can put more sand in your hourglass. It can help you scale up and make sure that the business serves your life, not the other way around. Because a lot of advisors I meet right now, the business is running them. So that's why I believe it's a game changer.
One of the stories that I like to tell advisors that are reluctant is that when I was in graduate school, one of the courses was technology and the executive. And I thought, this is going to be fantastic. I was in my early 30s. This is going to help me get ahead. And the first day of class, in walks this 70-something-year-old man with a tweed sweater. He had the elbow patches. And I thought, what in the world is this old man going to teach me about technology? One of the first things he said was worth the whole cost of graduate school. He said, the day you say you're too old for a new technology, you can start the clock for when your career is going to be over. Because as fast as technology advances, you're going to get left behind. And that was in the aughts. And he had a 5-year time clock on that. I think it's a lot less than 5 years now. And if you don't adapt some of these technologies, you're going to get run over. So this is so important. And I'm so grateful that you came on to share this white paper. I'd love to finish with this question. And this is a big ask that I didn't give you advance warning on. How does this impact the business for financial advisors 5 years from now?
Oh my gosh, that could be an entire conversation. In the spirit of beginning with the end in mind, I guess the first thing that jumps to my mind, Jay, is every business is built to be sold. Every investment of effort you make working on your business contributes to what that business is worth. Now, if you have no intention of an exit strategy or any type of end game in the next 5 years, then just stress test to what degree you've depersonalized your business. Not long ago, I talked to an advisor. We're going through this major pivot. And I said, I want you to set a goal to take a 6-month sabbatical in 18 months. So in 18 months, I want you to be able to detach and not be present, and your business will still be productive. Depersonalizing the business means clients don't just trust the people, they trust the practice and the process as well as the people. AI can help get you there. And then you just decide, what am I going to do with that? I mean, make yourself obsolete and see what it reveals. It might rejuvenate your sense of purpose, the calling. You might decide that you're going to sort of level up and become an ambassador for the business and let other people run the day-to-day and some of the minutia. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a better time to be alive in the next 5 years, Jay. I really do. If somebody will just find that sweet spot. AI and EI. Emotional intelligence is the primary driver of your value proposition. All the other things you do can be supplemented with technology. You find that balance. I mean, how high is high?
I love it. Duncan, thanks so much for coming back on the podcast. Viewers, listeners, download a copy of this white paper. Head over to paretosystems.com. Check the show notes or look in the comment sections on any social media platform you are watching. Duncan, thanks again.
Jay, great job.